Welcome viewers. One last video on the metal Catan set, and this is the final update on it because I have quit my job at the machine shop, so no more will you see any kind of machining videos. So let's take a little walkthrough here of the metal Catan set. So you can see some YouTube shorts in previous where I worked on the process. You can see how it has progressed through, so you can find some of those on the channel if you'd like. But here is basically the nearly finished product. I also was working on a stainless steel metal cross, so I never actually finished the numbers because I never came up with an idea. I tried stamping them in with my metal punches, but the numbers were only 1/8 of an inch in length, so it just was too small to be practical. So I'll have to figure something else out with maybe painting them on, or some kind of like, magnetic, numbers that can just magnetize to the top of these bolt heads. But basically we have the finished aluminum base plate, and you can see it's not blue. I might paint the edges in blue later on to represent the water, because it is an island, right? Island of Catan. But what we're looking at is that, which is about a 1/4 inch thick. I'll lift it up out of my little knockoff Pelican case here, which is super nice actually to house the metal Catan set. And then we'll break it down by hexes. So starting in the middle, we have a desert hex, which is just a regular steel, and I painted it this light brown color. And you'll see some of the other hexes that I painted green have a gloss finish to them. This brown was also just regular or gloss marked on the can of paint, but when I painted it, it actually came out to be a textured finish for the desert, which is exactly what I wanted. And I have a little stainless, or a little steel insert that I threaded into the base plate so that the desert can sit right on top of that. And that middle steel insert I can unthread so I can move the desert to a different hex for ultimate replayability and board customization. Okay, next we'll move on to brick hexes. These are copper. So I actually bought a 12-inch long rod of copper, hex material, and I machined all of my copper hexes. So on this board we have 4 of them to represent brick. So the tan color for desert, copper is brick, and the copper machined pretty well. It kind of gums up a little bit, and do not even attempt to drill and tap anything smaller than a 1/4 hole, because copper, it just gums up, and the tap does not like going through copper. Even if you step up the drill size to slightly over to make it easier, it's still going to gum up. I broke a tap trying to tap 832, and it just was not fun. I got through one hole, tried to do another one, it just broke. So don't even try it. So thankfully I didn't have to tap anything here. I just had to drill a through hole. So while the copper hex was chucked up in the lathe, I just drilled a hole through the center that would clearance for these 1/4 bolts to slide through each hex and thread into the aluminum base plate. So next we'll move on to light green. These are sheep hexes, and we have 1, 2, 3 of those. And then here you have the corresponding sheep port, which I will lift up because I pressed a small magnet into the aluminum base plate, and this is a piece of steel that I color matched for sheep, and it just magnetizes to the board in that spot for that port location. So of course you can build here or here. You have 2 spots for possibility there. And then copper, I actually had to press a steel piece into the bottom of the copper port, if it'll focus. That way it could magnetize to the steel magnet that I pressed into the board. So copper, brick port, brick hexes, sheep port. Then we have the brass, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have the brass port up top. Again, same thing. Steel insert at the bottom so it can magnetize, because brass is not magnetic, neither is copper, and neither is stainless. So I have 1, 2, 3 ore hexes with my stainless ore port over here, again with the insert in the bottom so it can magnetize there. This one It doesn't have the strongest magnetic pull there, but it does well enough. And then the 3-for-1 ports are aluminum, and to just have because all the other resource ports had their own material, so a 3-for-1 I decided to switch it up and go aluminum, so that could be further differentiated from the others. And then the dark green is to represent wood or lumber, as some might prefer to say. And then here's the corresponding wood port over here. And this is just kind of a standard board setup. I tried to make it as, you know, diverse, spread out as you would, so that no one could just overload on something. Although something like this, a double brick wood spot would be, you know, pretty solid to start out on, depending on numbers. But yeah, basically this is the base plate. And I was thankful to come across all these materials. I only had to buy the copper. Everything else was scrap lying around that I could go ahead and work with. You see all the tapped holes on the bottom of the base plate, and that worked out. So I want to thank you guys for following along the Metal Catan set process, and it is basically going to stay just like this for a long while, because I will not be doing any more machining. I am switching careers and looking more into that. Here are my brass game pieces. Yes, so just as a little aside, these are smaller, maybe 2/3 the size of regular Catan pieces, and I needed those because the roads, the standard Catan roads from a game set, would be too long to fit in these intersections and also have settlements and cities. So I actually just scaled down a full brass set. Now I could have made more, like with the copper and the stainless, and, you know, perhaps even steel, and painted those to maybe make a set for color blue, maybe add in a color for white and whatever else. But I just made one for brass, and this is just kind of like a show piece. It will get played eventually, but this is where we stand, and I'll probably do some sort of cutout right here that these could sit in here, and then I would do one here, one here, one here. But that's where we left it. Simply just ran out of time at the machine shop. So, because of various factors that I will not go into. But anyways, we have all the shorts here. You can take a look at your leisure if you feel like it. And that's kind of a more complete setup on that short. So anyways, thank you for all of the watching on all things Metal Catan set, but this is pretty much where it ends. So yeah, maybe one more video in the future of it actually being used in real life gameplay. Other than that, thanks for watching.